Every NFL season, a few young players make the leap from promising prospect to undeniable superstar. In 2026, these 3 second-year players are ready to explode, and one of them could be the next face of the league. I've got 3 guys that I want to dig into that showed flashes of what they could become next season, to become stars for this upcoming year as rookies. There were glimmers of possible stardom, and I think that these 3 players are bound to explode. Let's start with Omarion Hampton, the Chargers running back. I love everything about Omarion Hampton as a player, and he was dealt brutal luck as a rookie. He was not given an opportunity to get rolling. He was banged up, he missed a ton of time, and when he was healthy, his offensive line was decimated by injuries. He had no room to run. To better paint this picture, last season, he was contacted behind the line of scrimmage 52.4% of his carries. That is the 3rd highest rate in the NFL. That was the 3rd highest rate in the NFL last season. Despite this, he still forced a missed tackle rate of 29.8. That was the 4th highest in the NFL. It goes to show the type of a running back that he is. He's explosive. He's shifty despite being a bigger back that is physical and will run through you. He's able to make guys miss, and he was able to do it despite being constantly hit in the backfield because his offensive line was destroyed by injuries. Hampton has the tools to be a 1,200-yard rusher in the NFL. Right now, his rushing total in the preseason is set at 925.5 rushing yards. You can get that at minus 115 odds. His rushing touchdowns also set at 7.5 rushing touchdowns at minus 105. I love the over for both of those stats. I think that Hampton, on a team coached by Jim Harbaugh, that establishes the run and builds their identity through the trenches, Hampton is going to be set up to produce. If we look historically at the running back that was with the 49ers when Jim Harbaugh was the head coach, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that Hampton can mirror that production. The reason why I think that this context is important before I read it, for Frank Gore, who probably could have guessed who I was referring to, it shows that Harbaugh in his past has liked to lean on a singular running back to give that guy a ton of carries and let him go. Now, Mike McDaniel was not his offensive coordinator when he was with the 49ers, but the whole point is here that he has wanted to win through physicality. Frank Gore wanted to run through people's chests, and I think that Hampton is that same type of a guy. 2021, Frank Gore had 282 carries, 1,200 yards, and 8 touchdowns. 2012, Frank Gore had 258 carries, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. 2013, Frank Gore had 276 carries, 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns. 2014, Frank Gore had 255 carries for 1,100 yards and 4 touchdowns. There's only one season where that 7.5 rushing touchdown number wouldn't have been hit, and it was because Carlos Hyde took opportunities away from Frank Gore and scored 4 touchdowns that year as well. I think at the very least, that rushing yard total is so accomplishable for him to hit. The last part with this, I brought up McDaniel. I think that there is context for him as well, knowing the rushing production that he has gotten out of running backs in his coaching career. De'Von Achane has been super productive. Very different player than Omarion Hampton, but he leaned on him, gave him a ton of touches, let him go to work, and he was the engine that ignited the Chargers offense. All of this leads me to believe that Hampton, with better circumstances, is going to play extremely well. The Chargers are going to be a good team, but most importantly, he is going to emerge as one of the best running backs in the league. Next guy I want to bring up is a wide receiver on a team that is coached by a mad genius. I'm talking about Luther Burden, the wide receiver for the Chicago Bears. Former 5-star recruit. I love to bring that up with Luther Burden because he was highly touted in college. He was highly touted coming into the NFL, but slipped into the second round. And for some reason, fell off of everybody's radar. Now, Ted McMillan, he won Offensive Rookie of the Year. But I think that Burden has an opportunity to emerge as maybe a more productive receiver than Tetairoa McMillan. Is that absurd? I don't think so. His receiving total right now, 750.5 receiving yards at minus 137 odds. That's a pretty dang low total. I love how low his receiving yardage total is at the current moment. That is a perfect number for him to hit. The context that I look at is how Ben Johnson activated Amon-Ra St. Brown when he was with the Lions. There are a lot of parallels between Amon-Ra St. Brown and a Luther Burden. Both players are more compact, very shifty, great at making people miss, but most importantly, Ben Johnson got the ball in the hands of Amon-Ra St. Brown in situations where he could be like a running back as a receiver. He could make dudes miss after the catch. Luther Burden started to see some glimpses of that, of what he could be, and that was what he did so well when he was at Missouri. That's why this marriage, this pairing, was perfect in the first place. As a rookie, Amon-Ra St. Brown with the Lions had 912 yards. He had 1,100 in 2022, 1,500 in 2023, and 1,200 in 2024. Now, if he doesn't even, sniff that ridiculous production, I think at the very least, Burden's got a 1,000-yard season in him, at least an 800-yard season. But I think that in just the scope of being a breakout player, I think that Burden is going to break into the top 15 of receivers, could maybe even be knocking on the door of the top 10 or better. His production is going to skyrocket because Ben Johnson picked this guy for a reason, knowing that he can be his gadget, his dude with the ball in his hands. One stat that makes me feel pretty vindicated about this and buying into Luther Burden, he gained 7.4 yards after the catch per reception. That was the fourth most among NFL wide receivers. He also had 123 yards after contact, which was the most among rookies. As the season went on, he got more chances. He's got a full year ahead of him in 2026. In his second year in the league, he's going to take advantage of it. He's going to play at a very high level. The last guy is a guy on the team that I root for, a guy that I loved his tape when he was coming out of college, and I was dumbfounded that he didn't go earlier in the draft. I knew he was the third overall pick, but I thought he was good enough to maybe even be the first overall pick if the Titans weren't considering taking a quarterback. Abdul Carter is ready to explode. The lack of sack production, it is mistaking your expectations for what he can do. It was not what he is going to end up accomplishing this upcoming season. He is going to break through finally from being the dude who generated 1 million pressures and setting up Brian Burns to the guy who's actually finishing plays off and becomes one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. I think that he is bound to be in the upper category with guys like Micah Parsons, like Myles Garrett. We're going to be talking about him in that lens, maybe not this upcoming year, but in the future. But he's going to break through the top 10. He's going to pass Brian Burns as the best pass rusher on this team. Right now, he has plus 2,200 odds, the 12th best odds to win Defensive Player of the Year. Now, I think that's a little bit bullish, but Carter could be ridiculously productive and could be a reason why the Giants end up improving and rebounding in a major way this upcoming year. A stat that I think helps support my conversation here with Carter, he had 66 pressures, which was the 8th most in the NFL and the most among rookies. 44 quick pressures, which are pressures under 2.5 seconds. He had the quickest time to pressure among pass rushers in the NFL at 2.41 seconds. He was smoking dudes, getting past them so quickly. But there was a little bit of a lack of refinement in the way that Abdul Carter was playing. He was a rookie. He was on a team with a coach that didn't know how to get it out of him. Brian Dable was gone. And we found out later that the dude was showing up late and missing meetings and missing things. Now he's got a real coach in John Harbaugh who's going to help him lock in. Denard Wilson, an actual real defensive coordinator who's going to help him produce and finish. If we get a 15-sack season out of Abdul Carter, do not be shocked. That dude is that good. Comment below any player that you think is going to be a breakout player in the NFL this upcoming season. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to you later.